Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. So if one of them goes out, you're liable.
Morena councillors, Morena staff, visitors, could I declare the council meeting on the 15th of February open, please? In doing so, could I remind councillors and staff this meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and the recording will be made available on the Regional Council website following the meeting. Could also remind you that the local government decision-making affords no protection to councillors, council officers and the public for comments made during meetings as subsequently challenged in a court of law and determined to be slanderous. So with those comments, could I ask Councillor Thurston to open with a karakia, please?
Yep, standing. We never forget that we're forever in the holy presence of God. Almighty God, we ask that you give us wisdom in the decisions that we make here today and give us guidance in working with our regional communities to promote their social, economic, environmental and cultural wellbeing. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Thurston. And could I remind councillors that we have Councillor White, who is not an apology, but he will be on Zoom, that when speaking, could you turn on your microphones? Makes it easier for the person on Zoom to be heard. Public forum, there's no public forum. Items not on the agenda. Are there any items councillors want to raise, put on the agenda that are not on the agenda? If not, thank you. Order of business, there's no change to the order of business. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest? Mr.
Yes,
Crosby.
Chair, 10.3. Side director appointment.
Thank you. Is he with us? Okay, Councillor White is not with us, so on his behalf, I'll also declare a conflict for him, similarly to Councillor Crosby. Public excluded business be transferred into the open. There is none, so that takes us through to the minutes of the Regional Council meeting on the 14th of December. If councillors will note, if you are prepared to move these minutes, inclusive of the public excluded minutes of the 14th of December, we will deal with them both because that's all that's in the public excluded. And if there's no debate over them, we'll deal with it like that. If you want some debate over those minutes, then we will run through as in accordance with the agenda. Happy to move. Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Winters, moved and seconded. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Is there any matters arising from those minutes that won't be dealt with in the context of this meeting? Thank you, councillors. So that brings us to 9.1, which is presentations. So, Catherine.
My name is Catherine Brown and I'm the team leader of the People Solutions team here at Toi Moana. I am here briefly to introduce the last part of our summer experience program. It has been an absolute privilege to be involved again this year with the program and to welcome this year's team of summer assistants to Toi Moana, a tradition that I understand has been ongoing for over 30 years. I would like to thank Fiona McTavish and the leadership team for their ongoing support and commitment to this program, and Councillor McMillan for speaking to our students on Welcome Day. This program not only enables jobs for our communities over the summer period, but also welcomes community members, university students and school leavers to Toi Moana, allowing a number of individuals to experience council, many of whom without this program may have never worked for council. My hope is that the summer assistants from 23-24 will leave here as previous years have, having had a fantastic experience, that they will have a deepened understanding of who we are and what regional councils do. I hope that they will leave here with stronger job prospects, additional skills as ambassadors for local government, and even better, I hope that their time with us is only the beginning of their stories and future roles that they may take up for their communities. We as an organisation are strengthened each year by the brilliant minds that we welcome through these doors. On the 2nd of February, when we farewelled our summer assistants, I thanked them for saying yes to Toi Moana. Today, I specifically would like to thank again and introduce Daniel, who spent his summer in our biosecurity team, Ray, who has spent his summer in our digital team, and Jack, who has spent his time in our science team. Thank you for coming back today, and I'm sure everyone in this room and on live stream will enjoy hearing each of you speak as much as I did a couple of weeks ago.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Hello everyone, I'm Daniel, and this summer I had the awesome opportunity of being in the Marine Biosecurity team. And so yeah, I was the Marine Biosecurity summer student, and I had a very important mission this summer, and that was I put together a little presentation. So the mission was to increase the awareness of ocean users about marine biosecurity, but specifically exotic clerpa. And then while raising awareness, we had an awesome opportunity to gauge what the current level of awareness was of these ocean users and we did like a little survey to gauge that. And then this is the first year this program has been running, so it will set like a baseline for future years. So yeah. So we had a few different methods to go and increase the target audience awareness. These included talking to people at boat ramps, visiting marinas, talking to people at marinas, going on to community events, doing presentations to small groups, and then reaching out to a whole bunch of important stakeholders, such as like yacht clubs, marinas, about putting articles about exotic clerpa into their newsletters. So yeah. And so here are some of the key marine pests of interest. Top left, we have the Asian paddle crab. Middle left is Undaria, bottom left light bulb ascidian, middle club tunicate, top right is exotic clerpa, and then below that is the Mediterranean fanworm. This is a video showing Mediterranean fanworm fouling to the bottom of a jetty. This is not in the Bay of Plenty. So marine pests have tons of impacts, and for example, changing ecosystems, impacting ecosystem function, losing biodiversity, outcompeting native species, interfering with marine food webs, causing economic disruption, and limiting recreational activities, and has the potential to affect the modi of the ocean. So this is exotic clerpa. You can identify it by the rounded or the broad fronds and the bright green color. And we've just been trying to reach out to as many people who travel between regions specifically, because they're the ones who pose the greatest risk of spreading it. So we're just trying to get everyone on board. But important to note, it's not currently in the Bay of Plenty, but it's spreading really rapidly around the country. So this is why it's such a big deal. It has extremely rapid spread. This is at Trifina in 2021, less than 10 meters squared. And in 3 months, it went to 2,000 meters squared. So incredible rate of spread. And this is a video of it at Great Barrier Island in 2021. It forms these really dense meadows that outcompetes all the native species and displaces shellfish populations and fisheries. So it has pretty devastating impacts. This is where I spent a lot of my time at Sulphur Point Boat Ramp. So I just walked up to boats, did lots of cold approaches, and handed out information about exotic clerpa, talked with them about that, some other marine pests, and gave them out some giveaways if they were interested, and then asked if they were willing to do a survey. So we had an awesome amount of giveaways, and including like beanies, chamois, like maybe even drink bottles. So yeah, people were very happy with that. And yeah, people were very interested to hear about marine pests, so that was great, and a wide range in time for surveys. And we went all over the region. So I visited Waihi all the way down to Ohope, but spent the most amount of time here in Tauranga. So amazing results. Ended up with 211 surveys during this time period. and interacted with probably around 1,000 people. So there's a really great reach, and that was just surveys alone, and interacting people at marinas and boat ramps. That didn't include community events or anyone reached through presentations or through the articles. So this is quite interesting. The vast majority of people think marine pests are a problem. However, it's been found that most people have very poor marine biosecurity knowledge. I can't quite see the figure, but around 60% of respondents can't name any marine pests, and around 3/4 of respondents have a very low or poor knowledge of marine biosecurity. Here's a community event. This was the bomb competition down at the Strand, and made a little fishing game. People were fishing for marine pests, trying to ID it. So it was a great way to get the community involved. And here's a video of them playing it. Then reached out to all these organizations, got articles into their into the newsletters about exotic clerpa, so that was great. And we formed like a relationship with the Mount Maunganui Underwater Club, and every month we're putting out an article, and it's going to form a little column called the Marine Menace of the Month or something. So that's cool. And did presentations to Dive Zone, and then also to the Te Ngāti Kuku Hapu, just the spokesperson of the Hapu. And it was just really great to get these groups involved because they're such important stakeholders. And also went out distributing this promotional material, just trying to get it in everyone's face, know what exotic clerpa looks like. And then it's been amazing being at Toi Moana. They just give so many activities and train you up so well. And these are all some of the events I was involved in. eDNA sampling, dog awareness training, and more. It's amazing. Here I am at in Te Puke. I'm doing some eDNA sampling. It just takes you all over the region. It's such a cool opportunity. And here I am pointing out some woolly nightshade. So if you see this, make sure it's not on your property. And here the marine biosecurity team is. We're just following up after the eDNA sampling to look for some purple loose drift, which is a marine pest we don't want in the region. Or aquatic pest, I mean. So yeah, huge thank you to you all and to Toi Moana for this amazing opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And I would just like to call upon my colleague, Gary Christopherson, who will just introduce our next summer assistant.
Morena koutou. My name's Gary Christopherson. I'm the digital team's program manager. I just wanted to give you a bit of a context for about what you're about to see. The whole thing with the summer student here was to explore opportunities with AI and emerging technologies. Ray's work is about where we can add value and get efficiencies in Toi Moana. Part of it is also looking at the potential risk and understanding the resources need to do this stuff in the future. And it's also providing input into our AI strategy, which is currently under development for our next version of the digital plan. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Ray.
Good day, everyone. My name is Ray Wang, and I'm doing AI summer assistant in digital team and researching this awesome topic, artificial intelligence. I just graduated from Victoria University of Wellington, and today I'm excited to show some of our research outcomes in the past 3 months. In our research, we are more focusing on exploring how to use this AI technology and powers in regional councils with safety and efficiency way. AI can help us to do a lot of daily job. For example, we can build a customer service chatbot, or training a model to read and understanding images, or asking questions, get help from documents. In our first research outcome is we aim to build a customer service chatbot, which called BOP Chat, for our regional council's customers. This chatbot is allow the user to upload a document files or a website link as a chatbot searching result. So when customer asking question like, what is rate? it will reply answers based on these resources we give it to it. So our goal is to give our customer more intelligence, experience, and no makeup answers at all. A large language models can, with the proper training, can do more than just chatting. We train language models with our database, and build these website demos to simulate our staff can chat with these language models and get help from this AI and done all the job in the single dashboard web page. It can, for example, we can ask AI to automatically fill in this information into our backend database or Excel tables. This is Microsoft Copilot, can even describe images which user give it to it in really detailed words. So a large language model can do more than just chatting stuff with the proper training and deep learning. We train a model for image readings, and it can be installed into a smartphones or security camera for monitoring the river levels by detect the scales beside the river. So when the river level rises up out of the safety range, the application will send a warning message to our backend system, so we get a chance to deal with these warnings at first time to keep our whole community safety. Because I'm quite scared to run down to the river, test my demos, so I just print out some of the images to simulate how these models working on the real time. Is that able to play? Thank you very much. Yep. So it will detect on the real time, but I have to say this demo is still on training and study, so it might get more accuracy at futures. We all know ChatGPT is so popular nowadays, so we have the idea to build our own GPT, which called BOP-GPT. It allows users to upload document file or Word documents to let the AI read and understand all this document, get AI helps. Like, for example, we can asking for, can you search me a specific word from multiple documents, or just summarize one document into a simple paragraph. And most important things is all this chatting and you uploading files is processed 100% offline. So we don't need to worry about the privacy issues or security issues anymore. During my summer assistant time in regional councils, Gary and I wrote a report, detail explain how this AI models working and how we train them, how we see them for working. Thank you for all your attention. And last thing I have to say is I really thanks for these opportunities. Give me this opportunity doing summer assistant in Bay of Plenty regional councils. I'm doing research on my favorite topic, artificial intelligence. And every time when I need help, I can easily find a backup. Without Gary's help, I can't finish this big research project. And I love Bay of Plenty regional councils. I love all of you guys. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ray. And Jack, we look forward to hearing your time in science.
Just wait till this pops up. Cheers, thank you. Kia ora tātou awa. My name is Jack Burke, and it's been my great pleasure to be the Marine Ecology Summer Assistant over this summer. I've had the opportunity to participate in many interesting works as a member of the science team. From the Mōtiti Protection Area to the estuaries that make up Tauranga Harbour, to the tributary streams that lead to the breathtaking Kaiati Falls. It's been an amazing experience, and I'm here to share with you the highlights of my time here. My role can be broken into 3 areas. Firstly, my work in processing the baited underwater videos captured from the Mōtiti Protection Area, as seen on the screen. Now, it may sound like I've started with the most boring part of my work first, as all this work consisted of was watching videos at my desk and recording the abundance and variety of species that popped into frame. However, this has been the most rewarding part of my job. The installation of the Mōtiti Protection Area was a landmark, not only for the Bay of Plenty region, but for the whole of New Zealand, as before this, only universities, corporate bodies and organisations, iwi and hapu with tangata whenua status over the area, and the Director General could apply to have an area made a marine reserve, and largely only for the purposes of scientific study of marine life. In my opinion, this legislation highlights a major shortcoming as it does not allow for conservation to be the purpose behind the creation of marine protected areas. With all the pressures the marine ecosystem faces currently with global warming, ocean acidification, and the loss of biodiversity and life in our oceans, I believe conservation is now more important than ever, and the effort Toi Moana demonstrated in fighting to have the Mōtiti Protection Area instituted is inspiring. As an avid fisherman myself, seeing the sheer numbers of fish that have returned and the healthy, vibrant kelp forests that spread far and wide throughout all the videos was extremely uplifting and gave me hope for more areas around the country that have declined to once again return to their full strength with efforts from regional and central government. Secondly, I've had the pleasure of participating in many surveys throughout the estuaries of Tauranga Harbour. I'd previously done work in estuaries before, looking at macroinvertebrates in the Waimapu and Waikireo estuaries. However, not to this extent. We conducted two different types of surveying through the estuaries, one surveying the seagrass beds and installing light loggers for monitoring of these sites, and the other on mapping and surveying the density of Hormosera banksii, an algae that is typically found on the rocky shore, but has made its way into the estuaries, as you will see here. These Hormosera surveys were something completely new to me. I'd seen it before out on my diving adventures kilometres away from the estuaries, which made it quite shocking that masses of it, as seen in those photos, were washing into our estuaries and creating these large blankets that were covering seagrass beds. Not only this, but it has also undergone a morphological change, growing differently than its rocky shore counterpart. Not much is known about this Hormosera, like what causes it to undergo this change? Why is it washing into the estuaries at such a massive rate? And is it a bad thing that it's here? Seeing it firsthand, it got my gears turning, and I hate being left in suspense. So I decided to base my capstone research project for my study this year around it to hopefully answer some of these questions myself. The final aspect of my work this year has been around the long-term monitoring of 8 different sites around the tributary streams that lead into the Kaiati Falls. I'll be honest, freshwater science isn't normally my jam. I prefer just about everything in marine science. But after being a part of this monitoring program, well, my opinion really hasn't changed, but I think freshwater science is a bit cooler now. It was interesting to see in real time the changes the freshwater systems can undergo. For instance, here in the photo on the right, you can see some long strands of green filamentous algae in the stream. It's a little bit hard to see. I'm not a great photographer, but just up towards, I guess, the kind of top third of the image, you can see some of it there. This appeared in the stream in under 7 days. I knew this type of algae from my studies was opportunistic, but I didn't realise just how quickly it could capitalise on excess nutrients in the water. I was used to the months, years, decades, and even centuries it can take for noticeable changes to occur in the marine ecosystem, not the days that it took in this freshwater system. Not only this, but I also got to visit some pretty epic spots like this one in this photo here. And because we were driving on a farm, it also meant I needed to do my 4x4 training, which was one of the most fun days of work that I've ever had to do. My time here at Toi Moana has been amazing, and this is definitely the best summer job I've ever had. It's been amazing to apply theory from my classes into real world experiences, and I've learned so much being a part of the work that I've been privileged to participate in. And I just have a few thank yous, primarily a thank you to all the members of the science team here who took time to chat with me and talk to me about their jobs, and an especially big thank you to Josie, who was my buddy for the summer assistant and extremely great to work with this whole summer. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Jack, Ray and Daniel. And I'd just like to acknowledge my colleague, Rebecca Taylor, who is the absolute backbone in delivery of this program. So questions and hopefully answers. And we've got some team leaders and managers here as well to assist.
Thank you, Catherine. And they even pay you for it, don't they, Jack?
Yes, they do, which was the best part.
Questions? Councillor Nees.
Well, firstly, I'd just like to say thank you very much for coming in and sharing your experience with us. It's always a really rewarding experience for us just to see how we're interacting with summer students. My question is for Ray, and it's the AI. I'm very fascinated in applications of AI, and I'd really like to have a copy of that report circulated so that we can actually read it. So, Ray, if there was one application of AI that you think would provide the most benefit to the regional council, what would it be?
I think the video monitoring stuff will be more reachable and more powerful. Like it will save a lot of time for watching the video, watching the CCTV stuff. Yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you. And the margin of error relying on AI, what is that something we need to be concerned about? Is that a risk that we should be looking to manage?
For this question, I want to pass to my leader, Gary. Oh, sorry.
Definitely, it's part of the strategy that we'll be doing. I think I just shared with you I went to a conference at the end of last year, and the Privacy Commissioner was there. And his point was moving ahead with AI at the level of trust. So getting the trust of everybody, and that includes internally and the public. One of the things, the advice we've been given as well, is to work on this stuff internally before releasing it into the public as well, because we can learn a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Nees, Councillor Winters, Von Duddles and Thurston, then Macmillan. in that
I'm just
order.
interested, Mr. Chairman, how many summer students did we employ this year? What was the total number?
Catherine? Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, the total number was 25 this year.
Right across the motor?
Yes.
Thank you. Cool. Keep it up.
Mr. Von Duddleson?
Yeah, the caliper pest in the Great Barrier. Have they found any way of actually controlling it or getting rid of it? Yeah.
Yeah, there are several control methods, but currently they're quite limited in size. I mean, maybe I'll get Hamish to add further, but there's small scale control methods such as putting tarpaulins on, putting like a chlorine tablet underneath. But then they've found that for larger scale, you can do suction dredging, and I think they're now trialing a larger scale. But do you have anything to add, Hamish?
Yeah, Northland Regional Council have just built it's like a Dyson vacuum cleaner, huge thing that goes on a barge. That's just been built. It's sort of got the two circular, think of a Dyson vacuum cleaner, but massive. And they're trialling that out this week, so that'll be interesting to see that. And then they're going to lay Hessian over the top of it, just because it's in the Bay of Islands, quite a significant spot there. The other trial they did out at Aotea out at Great Barrier was using salt, but you need 50 kgs per square metre. So a lot of salt. Seems a bit weird putting salt in a salty environment, but that does work. The downside to that is that it kills everything. So you end up with a blank canvas. The Dyson vacuum cleaner seems like it's going to be the less intrusive way of doing it. It sort of flicks up all of the caulerpa and doesn't lift all of the scallops, mussels, anything, sponges and that are on the seafloor. So yeah, but extremely tricky one to manage once it gets in, and a lot more research and for tools, tools that'll be applicable to controlling it is needed.
So just on that point, can you tell us a bit about the physiology of it? So, I mean, it turned up there. Is it temperature related? And why did it turn up there? And what are the vectors in terms of its reproducing? I mean, you get in there with a vacuum cleaner, and if it breaks off and it seeds from, or it reproduces from fragments, then I don't know. I mean, or is it seed? Is it roots or whatever it is?
Yeah, a few parts to that question, but I'll go through them. How it got there, Aotea is a stop which we've picked up, our own dive team, because we work for Auckland Council. We've picked up a couple of New Zealand species there, one from Brazil. It's a spot where people sneak in through the border and stop there and potentially clean this is recreational vessels, clean their hulls in Smokehouse Bay, which is a quite heavily frequented recreational area. So yeah, probably come through that way. Recreational yachts that have stopped in there for the night. how it's transferred around here, it's a tricky one because it's not one that settles on vessel hulls. It'll settle on equipment and anchors. So that's tricky because we've got a good awareness campaign about keeping your hull clean below good to go. But when you're dealing with equipment, dive gear, anchors, and that's another set of protocols, and that we are trying to educate people on. It's tricky. You put your anchor down, pull it up. You don't normally check what's on the anchor or the warp line. Physiology. Yeah, so it is via fragmentation. This vacuum cleaner that Northern Regional Council have built it sucks everything up while it's doing its thing, while it's vacuuming the floor. Can take us similar to hornworts in the freshwater environment. Only takes one fragment to settle, and it'll send its stolons down and start growing a new plant. Was there another question?
Is it water temperature related or
No.
what? No.
It'll go from zero, from the shoreline all the way down. They've tracked it. NIWA have tracked it down to 37 meters in Aotea, and Florida all the way through to temperature-wise down to, they think, we don't know in New Zealand yet because it's in the warmer temperate environment up north, but probably around about 10 degrees. So anything from 10 to 30 degrees, it's quite happily grows, yeah.
On this question, Councillor Shirley?
On that reproduction, the vegetative propagation, what about spores? Presumably as an algae, it actually creates spores as well?
Yeah, no, this one doesn't. It reproduces by fragmentation.
Just vegetative propagation?
Yeah, vegetative, yeah. So it will just, that diagram that Daniel had there was just the plant growing out, reproducing itself out via its stolons.
No spores?
No spores, no.
Thank you. Mr. Thurston.
Thank you for being with us. If we were to bump into you in 10 years' time in the street, what would you be doing and where would you be?
It's all of you.
All of you. I know where you are. But
Oh my gosh. I really don't know, to be honest. It's hopefully something environmental, hopefully something making a positive difference. Yeah.
Here or overseas?
Probably here. Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, I have the same idea with Daniel, like environment stuff, which is gotta be more difference from now.
The smart part of me says hopefully back here. The dreamer part of me says hopefully like a retired millionaire with a yacht somewhere up in Auckland. That'd be pretty nice.
Thank you very much.
Councillor McMillan.
Oh, kia ora, thank you so much. And it's really nice having met you on day one, you know, at the beginning of your induction, and then seeing what you've achieved for the region in that short period of time. So really inspiring. And Jack, never lose that passion for your advocacy for marine protected areas. Don't let that dull down. Keep that fire burning. That's really important. My question was to Daniel, in terms of all the people you met. So you met 1,000 people. What would you say the appetite is for citizen science? So in other words, citizens wanting to engage in supporting marine conservation and actually giving up voluntary time to do that. Would you say that there's a warmth there, or people want it done for them? What does that look like to you? Because you may have got a little bit of a gauge on that with 1,000 people.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The vast majority of people, just for the survey alone, were very positive and very interested, and were happy to contribute to the survey. There were, of course, like a few people, maybe like 3% of people were like not very interested at all. But I mean, I imagine most people are willing to contribute and help. Yeah, I think so. I think it's mostly a positive reception towards learning and contributing to marine pests. Yeah.
Councillor Scott?
Yeah, Daniel, sort of following up from that, but probably relevant to everybody is one of the things that connected is the new information that we know. And it's a bit scary with some of your numbers in particular, which were everyone's aware, or lots of people are aware that they're a pest and so on, but what in the world is a pest and what do you do about it and how does it affect me? And it's true even, sort of the, even an expert scientist such as Jack, is surprised by how fast some of these things grow and spread. So that seems to be a big gap for us to go from people being aware and just generally concerned, New Zealanders are concerned about the environment, to what specifically can I as an individual do. So did you pick up any ideas or have some aha moments about this will work better than something else?
Yeah, well, the messaging that the team is trying to get across, it's trying to get people to bag, know what Clapper looks like. If they see it on the gear, bag it and bin it. Bag it, bin it is the new slogan. So it's trying to get people to, as soon as they see it, to report it, bag it, bin it. Is there anything you'd like to add, Hamish?
That is a good point. And in relation to that, the freshwater biosecurity program, it's been 25 years we've been educating people, and it's the same. We've seen the same thing happen. People know what they need to do, but they sort of don't know what the issues are. And we had summer students working on that for 20 years, and we saw awareness was really, really high, but they sort of didn't know what the pests were. And that took actually a long time to educate people, because people just see the lakes and it all looks fantastic, and you tell them, well, this lake's actually got 4 really nasty, the world's worst basic weeds in it. And then you get rid of those and the natives pop up and they complain about the weeds. So yeah, you got to educate them on the native stuff too. The marine environment is really, really tricky, because they will hardly ever see a pest. You won't see it in the flesh, and that's when the penny drops. And we have, for the last 8 or 9 years been going to boat shows and educating people about what the pest is. It's still quite low. So the first part of it is probably the most important, getting them to do what we need them to do in relation to hygiene. And then if they do that, and they also know about the pest, what the pest looks like, that's great. But the first part is actually super important, and exactly the same for the lake environment as well. Making sure you clean all your gear before you go to the next lake is the most important stuff. But it is quite a long journey to get just the general public, their level of knowledge of what pests are throughout all biosecurity. Really, that's the tricky part to our job.
Have we got a long-term strategy documented in some way about what the plans are? About what to achieve that? Have we got something like that? It'd be interesting to see if it can come back at some stage.
Yeah, we have for communications and engagement program plans set up by our comms team, which is fantastic, for both the marine and freshwater pests. And long-term goals to where we want to get to for freshwater, because it's been going for so long, and we've had students really important these students continue. I thought I'd just plug that. But with the marine environment, we need to set a target as well. We've sort of reached it for the freshwater space. Everyone's, they know what Hornwater Lake Siphon. We've been sort of banging away at that for quite a while. So,
Thank you, Councillor Reti.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. Tuatahi he mihi kawana ki a koutou mo tō kaha ki te tae. Just acknowledging your commitment to the environment and You know, there's a lot of things you can do with your summer. You decided to come out and do this mahi, so he mihi kia koutou. My pātai is to Ray and to Gary. Do I understand that we're actually training our own offline large language model?
No. So this is just research at the moment to see which areas we would target. We've got to do it with a high degree of trust and consideration of what it's all about. Yeah.
So the BOP chat PT is, or GPT is using chat GPT.
No, that's no chat GPT models, but we do the front end from the Meta, which is a Facebook company. They have the Llama 2 7B chat, which is small models. It can reply answers like ChatGPT, but don't have that much high accuracy and humanity response. Yeah, it's just for showing the demo and idea at a really high level. Yeah.
Just to add to that, it's all within our own environment, so none of this work is exposed to the world or to the public. Yeah.
Sure. And Gary, are we looking forward to a report to the council on which parts of our business we're really looking at applying this technology?
So in my context setting, we talked about we're developing a strategy at the moment, and that's part of the digital plan, or the next version of the digital plan. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Daniel, Ray and Jack, thanks very much for that presentation. Clearly you've enjoyed, I hope, your time at Toi Moana here. I wish you well in terms of your career aspirations, whether it be here, somewhere else or overseas. If you go overseas, come back, bring all that knowledge to here. So once again, thanks very much, Catherine. Thank you for facilitating this. The Student Summer Program is always a bit of a highlight in terms of feedback to councillors. So kia ora. Right, councillors, that takes us to item agenda 10.1, Chairperson's Report. I'll move that the Chairperson's Report. Seconder, Councillor Winters. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Any matters arising out of that? If not, we'll go to 10.2, Assessment by Plenty Regional Council's practice in relation to the Ombudsman's report. I see we've got 20 minutes put aside here, Mr. Groom. Don't know whether we'll take 20 minutes.
Hopefully not.
Just a noting on page 31, I suppose, in terms of councillors' responsibility, you'll note there that staff said this is not really for staff, it's a matter for councillors. That's why you put up the recommendations, the manner in which you have.
That's correct.
Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Morning, councillors. That's a really difficult act to follow, and it's going to be quite a jarring transition from the uplifting and inspirational to the more business focused nature of this paper. So I'll just make some brief introductory comments. So the Ombudsman released his investigation into the use of workshops in council business. It was a really interesting report in that the genesis of it was complaints about the use of workshops to circumvent public discussion. He didn't find not what he was looking for, but what the complaint was about. But the report became a much broader discussion of governance in a local government setting. And the upshot is that it's a really useful report for us in terms of kind of benchmarking our practice and looking for areas we can improve. I think when we compare our current practice to this report and to the other councils that we looked at, we stack up pretty well. But there are some areas for improvement, which this report calls out and kind of sets out a program of work to achieve that. So we're seeking your endorsement to the work program that we've set out here. A lot of the actions are relatively transactional and business as usual, like updating text on our website and things like that. We'll just get on and do that, assuming that we have your endorsement. There's three areas that we're really keen to get a steer from you on. So those three areas are the live streaming of workshops. Our current practice is that we record some workshops and make the recording publicly available afterwards, but we don't live stream workshops as a practice. And the report calls out that there would be a resource impact to that. So live streaming a meeting takes an additional resource out of the governance team. I've proposed a recommendation where the chief executive has some discretion around live streaming workshops that are of particularly significant nature. Another option I should have included but didn't, and I apologise for that, is that we could institute a practice of recording all workshops and making those recordings subsequently available, and that circumvents the additional resource that would be required to live stream a meeting. The next is developing a policy for the release of publicly excluded information. I think that's probably a good practice for us to put in place deliberately. There's certainly a few publicly excluded items that through the passage of time become the reason for public exclusion kind of diminishes over time. So it makes sense for us to have a practice in regard to that. And then as the chairman mentioned, there's a recommendation around the recording of votes against resolutions. I think that's for you to discuss and make a decision about. In the report, we kind of call out the fact that the trade-off for instituting that practice would be it would steer you away from consensus decision-making, I suspect. It would change the nature of the conversations that you have around the table, and it would chew up some meeting time. Recording of votes would take 2 to 3 minutes per resolution. If you've got a meeting with 10 or 15 resolutions, you're losing a bit of your discussion time. So with that said, I'm just happy to open to questions and discussion.
Thank you, Steve. So the matter I was referring to, the one you just referred to, is in item 6 there. Okay, councillors open for discussion. Councillor Winters.
Oh, can I move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6C?
So we have a resolution from Councillor Winters to do 1, 3,
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
So that'll come back to us.
Yep.
5 will come back to us.
Yep.
And 6C.
And 6C.
I don't think we need to, yeah. So I'm just,
Okay.
Can I speak to it?
Seconded, Councillor Scott. Councillor Scott, seconding. Thank you. It's open for discussion. Councillor Von Duddleston. Councillor McMillan.
Oh, yeah, just on that, the voting transparency. So just so that I'm clear, would you, with any resolution, have to then go to a vote, which often we don't? So it would force having to everyone put their hands up for every single resolution.
It'd force a vote, yeah.
Okay, because and I don't know whether what Councillor Winters has suggested covers this, but I am supportive of us having the capacity to have it noted what our vote was on certain matters that
You
we
currently
feel-
have
Yeah,
that.
so
Yeah,
I want to maintain that.
Yeah.
But not create
Yeah.
cumbersome work that's unnecessary. So I think that's important that we can put a mark as to which way we swung on
Yeah,
matters.
so C would maintain that. So at the moment,
Okay.
any councillor can call for a division.
Okay.
Or you can note that your opposition or abstention to a vote. Yeah.
So councillor, that's current practice. So if you vote for C, that's just endorsing that. Councillor Shirley E.T. then Von Duddleston.
Thank you, Chair. I agree the motion with regard 1 through 5, but it comes to 6, I'm not sure. And I'm not sure that B wouldn't be a better option for us and more transparent and wouldn't incur the resource activity. But the key with that one is where the significance rating is high. And I'm just trying to get some information on how do we apply it? Who determines what decision is significant and what are the thresholds? Now, that's the difficult area, because often something that seems quite minor to some people can actually have all sorts of implications and significance from different perspectives. So I'm sort of favouring B, but I'm not sure why.
Response to that, I would think in the first instance, significance should be something that's determined by the chief executive.
Through you, Chair, you have an engagement and significance policy. So all papers are rated against that policy. Most of your papers are not high. So because of the long-term plan process where budgets are confirmed, you don't have many high rated policy papers because you're generally looking at that decision-making through avenues such as your long-term plan or annual plan.
When I look at the title of this paper, it talks about open for business report on the use of workshops. The executive summary mentions local council meetings and workshop. The resolutions are the recommendations. Number one is only talking about workshops. What are we talking about? Are we talking about meetings and workshops or just workshops? Because we can't make decisions in workshops. So it's not valid, there's a real confusion on how this paper's put together.
Through you, Chair. Yes, so the genesis of the report was a complaint about workshops. The Ombudsman's used his prerogative to basically produce a report that is much wider than just workshops. Hence this paper and the recommendations from the Ombudsman cover a range of council business beyond workshops.
So it's both, councillor. Councillor Eaty.
Yep, kia ora. I'm comfortable to support Councillor Winter's motion. We do have the mechanism of being able to call a division if it is a highly contentious issue, which we have done in the past. So I'm quite comfortable with continuing with that practice. I'm also quite comfortable with the recording of workshops to be made publicly available rather than streaming live. I think in terms of transparency, that covers us. I think it's also really good for us to have that record because there have been occasions lately where we're not necessarily making decisions in workshops, but we are certainly giving direction to staff in workshops. And there has been some confusion a little bit further downstream as to what direction was given, and staff have had to go back and have a look. And I think it's really important in terms of public transparency that we make it available to the public. But not necessarily, I don't think it's necessarily live that we have to do that. I'm happy with just the recording. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Eaty. Councillor Neese.
Thank you. Just on that point, I think it is important that that we have the ability where it's particularly sensitive for us not to release, not to live stream. And I'm thinking about some of the discussions we've had in confidential. So we've got to make sure that we do have the ability to keep our discussion within us until we are certain that we're clear on where we want to go. With regard to 6C, I really value the way that we operate at the present time. I think we manage to find our way through quite difficult decisions without worrying about voting. I think consensus decision-making is really important, and I really value that. Also, the other thing that I would be worried about if we recorded every vote, quite apart from the lack of efficiency, which would take time. But I think part of the process, the democratic process, is keeping an open mind and being open to change your decision. As you work through a process, you get more information, and you may have a different decision at the beginning than you do at the end. And I value that too. And I think it would be open to misuse by the public if they saw that, oh, well, she decided that then, and then later she decided this, and then she decided that. While it might show that we've had an open mind, it might also be quite confusing and could be used against some of us. So that's why I support 6C.
Thank you, Councillor Neese. I can see Councillor Shirley's. You've got a comment in terms of that?
Another bite of the cherry.
Okay, you can. Then I'll come to Councillor Thurston.
I still haven't given up on B. I'm almost there, but to me, B, adopt a practice of division on resolutions where active decisions are required. Most of our decisions are actually consensus because we discuss it and we come to general consensus, and we only divide when someone sort of has a firm contrary view and we then have a vote. So in practice, I don't see much difference between B and C. And if it was only applied where there are significant rating, where it's got a high significance rating, and where someone wants to call a division, I just can't see in practice much difference between B and C.
Thank you. And on that point, we'll come to Councillor Thurston, who is not reserved in terms of calling for divisions on issues of significance. Are you, Councillor Thurston?
I never forget. Just to signal that I'll be supporting my colleague's proposed amendment. Well done, Councillor Winters. But with regards to B, if we got into a lengthy debate around that, with all due respect to staff, I do believe that the significance rating is the responsibility of the politicians, not staff. My apologies, Fiona.
Councillor Crosby. Oh, so before I come, Councillor Thurston, you mentioned the word amendment.
Well, he's amending the recommendations that are there.
Fine. So you're endorsing Councillor Winters moving it.
Correct.
Councillor Crosby, then Scott.
Thank you. Yes, I support Councillor Winters' recommendations. I think they're very clear and succinct. Having worked in an area where we did start to vote for everything, it was an absolute shambles. It was very difficult for the staff to understand what elected members at times were voting for. We tried an electronic system that constantly failed, and you also get some quite interesting behaviours by some elected members when you institute that. So we always have the opportunity to have our names recorded against a particular recommendation if we choose to. And the other issue is, which is probably not mentioned in Mr. Bosch's report, is the issue around collective responsibility. In other words, once a decision is made, whilst you can oppose it, there is still a collective responsibility in terms of that decision. But it's a very good report. And basically what he's done is just align meeting procedures to a degree with workshop procedures. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just brings more transparency into our decision-making from the public's perspective.
Thank you, Councillor Crosby. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, so there's two issues. One is regarding 6C, and this might assist Councillor Shirley. With 6B, the decision about whether significance rating is high is left to the Chief Executive, perhaps the Chair of the meeting. With 6C, the decision about whether something is significant is left to each member, because if it's significant for them, it's high. And so it actually provides more flexibility but still keeps the transparency if someone wants to have their name recorded one way or the other. So I think C actually gives us more ability to do what we want to do. With workshops, paragraph 4 says we give consideration, because I'm in two minds. One is the transparency and openness, and to reassure the public that we're not making decisions at a workshop is important. But at the same time, I certainly see, and I think my colleagues might have noticed, that at times it's important to have, for instance, a devil's advocate to put what's the alternative? You know, how do we make sure we're not involved in groupthink here? Have we, you know, if we go through the various hats, the black hat, the red hat, the yellow hat, and all that, how have we tested what we're discussing? And if people understand that's what's happening at the workshop, that's fine. But if public drop into a recording of a workshop and see or seem to their observation is that there's disagreement, or someone's saying some really just random stuff and it doesn't seem logical, but what's actually happening is that the decision is and the idea is being tested. So I am in two minds, because you've got transparency and openness and making sure the public are reassured that these are not decision-making forums. But at the same time, you don't want to have anyone confused that because there's discussion around a topic, that there is it's healthy debate and healthy decision-making process. So happy for the consideration to happen.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. So it's been a worthwhile discussion. The issue's been moved and seconded. The only comment I've got, Fiona, in terms of the issue Councillor Eaty raised about ultimately workshop recordings being made public. I think you've got two issues staff are needing to address. One is the commercial sensitivity of whatever's discussed there. And the second, which we've referred to in workshops because we don't have the public there, is the privacy. So once we start talking about individuals or entities, then we just have to be careful that in terms of it going public, that those things are redacted. And I don't know how staff are going to manage that sort of process.
I think it's exactly the same rules that apply in a meeting in terms of exclusions. There's about 5 of them, 6, I think, from memory. They just apply at the same time.
Okay, right. Sorry, Mr. Von Duddleson.
The value of a workshop is that we can be free and frank, and I think as a rule, that's where we get the big value versus transparency. And what I don't want to see is that we get constrained in our thinking. I think Councillor Scott is dead right. You throw up ideas to test things, and that's the value of workshops. So to automatically recording's fine, I've got no problem with recording, but releasing to the public as of the norm for workshops, I think is probably not a good idea, actually, because that is a time, there's no votes taken in it, and you know that, and it allows that freedom of expression around councillors. And I think we've managed that process very well in the past, and I don't want to see it change.
Thank you, Councillor. I think they're very salient points in terms of people being able to express a view and then have the ability to change their mind. Mr. Groom.
Thank you. Can I just, if we're moving to voting on the motion, can I just clarify where we're standing on point 4? So that's around the recommendation as it stands is live stream or recorded and made available on the council's website. I guess there's 2 points to clarify there. Are we saying recorded and later made available on the council's website? Just an important clarification for us in terms of as opposed to live streaming.
Oh, what I was getting to, Mr. Chairman, is that the workshops will be recorded for minute-taking purposes to make sure that what somebody said, it can be ratified at a future date. But in terms of live streaming them, no. And if that workshop is to be put onto our website, then it's the CEO's call. That's what the direction that it does. Yeah.
It's my understanding, Councillor McMillan.
My understanding is that if we, so it seems to be clear that the appetite is not for live stream due to costs, etc. But if the workshops are recorded, we go through at the beginning of the workshop the same confidentiality rules as apply in publicly excluded, all of that. So we're clear from the beginning of that workshop that we're not breaching privacy or commercial. Then they all go up on the website. They all get released on the website with us being clear that we're not to breach people's privacy or commercial activity. And that's what I'm in support of, because I believe that we need to be seen to put our money where our mouths are. We need to be seen to be actively debating, and that we shouldn't be hiding behind a rock about that. We should be owning it in these workshops as well as we are in our meetings where we make the final decisions. That's what I'm supportive of.
That's fine, councillor McMillan, and the only issue there is that someone is going to have to validate before it goes into a public forum, the content of those meetings. And that's going to fall to staff. And in terms of commercial sensitivity and privacy issues, you can't afford to make a mistake, or they can't afford to make a mistake. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, the motion I seconded said that we're going to consider it. And my understanding of that was that this was not a done deal. There's clearly some discussion still be had what we want. So this is not about implementing it, it's about considering it.
That's fine, that's what's up there.
Move the motion be put.
Okay, I've got to move the motion be put. Although we've had discussions, been moved and seconded. All those in favour say aye. Against? Aye. Carried. Thank you. Right, 10.3, Mr. Taylor.
Nothing to add to the report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any discussion, Mr. Winters?
Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, because we're going to be talking about individuals, I'm wondering if this go into confidence, please.
We can do that. On that basis,
I'd like to move that we go into confidence, please.
On this particular agenda item. If that's the case, I'll take it at the end of the meeting and we move into confidence and confidential. So,
okay.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Bring him back. 10.4, Mr. Lecomte.
I have a question for this too, Mr. Chairman.
Councillors, so the purpose of this report is just to update councillors that RSHL's annual report's been audited. RSHL being an entity that's been established to advance collaborative and shared service initiatives on behalf of the regional council sector. In essence, the key messages being conveyed by the company to council is it's met all of its 14 performance measures. Bottom line after tax profit is higher than what was budgeted, and that's mainly due to timing differences on the delivery of its work program. And that in essence is the key highlights advised in the annual report. Open to questions or discussion on the topic.
Thank you, councillors. Just so you're under no misunderstanding, first paragraph on page 42, it's not Quayside, it's a typo. Mr. Winters.
Yeah, just on page, what is it, Matt? Oh, 52 of the agenda and 8 of 41 of the report. So it's got the proportion of contributions to the IRIS program and the shareholding, but we're not there. But yet we're seeing this report. So how come we're not there? And what is our shareholding if we are there?
So through the chair, there are two types of shareholdings on RSHL. There are Class A control shares and Class B IRIS shares. We are a Class A control shareholder, to my understanding, and we contribute to the IRIS Next Gen program rather than the IRIS program.
Oh, no. So for our shareholding on the IRIS, we will be there next year. Is that what you're saying?
We're still to develop that through the next statement of intent. I understand that they will, when IRIS Next Gen stands up, that we have a contribution to that and they will establish a shareholding class to that. That is to be confirmed by RSL, but that's my understanding. But we are, at the moment, we are a Class A control shareholder.
And where's our Class A shareholding listed, Mark?
On 72 of the PDF report, there's a table of organisations, Class A control shares and Class B IRIS shares. We are the third from the bottom.
73, page 73.
72.
72 on my PDF version.
Yeah, it's on 72.
Oh, we are there. Got it. So with us belonging to this group, what sort of savings are we going to get in the next 12 months to our long-term plan?
So it depends which baseline you talk to. The savings compared to our long-term plan have already been incorporated. There is a regional collaboration activity within the corporate group, I believe, where we've budgeted some $5 million of savings over 10 years. So there are savings which are already included in our LTP forecasts.
Through the chair, you'll recall that $3.5 million is savings in moving to Iris Next Gen is one of the things that you've considered in your draft long-term plan.
So we've already budgeted the savings as
Yes, that's
opposed to,
correct.
we're including it as opposed to not including it.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Shirley, then Von Duddleston.
Thank you, Chair. The RSHL, Regional Software Holdings Limited, presumably it started, was initiated for software sort of integration, but I see that its brief is much wider now. When I look at page 53, it was sort of doing the RM reform legislation, the future of local government review, freshwater farm plan regulations, water services legislation, and Lagoima, all. So it seems to be an umbrella group for the regional councils in total. I'm sort of just getting my understanding of where it all fits. And I noticed I've got 8 staff. Can I ask, where are they based? Are they in local government New Zealand or?
So it is a shared service arrangement for the regional and unitary authorities to effectively save money. The people are based all over New Zealand. So there are a couple in Hamilton. So it's where the person lives, that they have a virtual office.
Mr. Von Duddleston. Mr. Scott.
I'm interested in risks to us, and there's 2 risks, both on page 47. One is about the cloud-based data, and just to understand, it's easy to say cloud-based, but where is that data held? Is it held in New Zealand, for example? And the second question I have around risk is about halfway down the page. It says notably 59% of the revenue collected came from central government. And I wonder if there's been any analysis about whether that support is likely to continue or if there's been any change in that level of funding.
So on the first question, I don't have the immediate answer for the cloud-based storage. That's something I'll have to get some more information for you. Perhaps I don't have that level of detail. RSHL is generally funded project by project. So one of the particular variances noted this year was they had extra $2 million of MFE funding for essential fresh water. So they budget project by project, and each project will have different funding sources. So that central government funding is related to their current mix of projects.
I think saying there's no risk that has not been identified for us as a regional council.
So if there is no risk, because if they are not taking on work, they then don't have the expenditure either.
I think, Councillor Scott, this is a good example of the relationship between the regional sector and, in this case, MFE. And if we can foster that relationship and they ask for help, if they ask for help, we hold out the hand and say, well, we need a hand with the pūtea. So it's not as if it's not at risk. Fiona, you're working on this all the time. But I think I've got a high level of confidence. Might not be the same level as the last triennium, but I think it'll still be there.
Yes, as Marcus said, they work on projects that save money for New Zealand Inc. Many of those projects are co-funded between central and local government. If that funding is not available, then normally the project does not proceed. And this is a significant benefit of this mechanism to enable central government funding to come in and to look at a New Zealand Inc. solution. The one that is currently uncertain is, you'll recall that I talked about an integrated farm management platform for New Zealand, which is a very efficient way of doing it, instead of every single regional and unitary authority developing their own integrated farm management plan at the moment. It's not clear whether that will proceed with this government, and that is one that is currently funded through RHSL. They've got an interim solution for Waikato and Southland councils at the moment, but whether that proceeds is still uncertain.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, can I have councillor Winters?
Also, Mr. Chairman, you talked about a template for farm plans across the nation. Great, good. That's what we should be doing. But what about the B card? I mean, we've got this regional integrated ticketing system for public transport. Is that going to be in here as well?
So we're moving to a national ticketing service, and the New Zealand Transport Authority provides the back end for that service. So the bulk of the costs are with the New Zealand Transport Agency. So it's slightly different. But if it was with the cost solely set with regional councils and unitary councils, yes, it could go in here. But the bulk of the costs with that one sit with New Zealand Transport Agency.
Thank you. So I'll move the adoption of the regional RSHL annual report for the year of 30th of June. Seconded, councillor McMillan. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you, councillors. Right, that takes us through or back to 10.3 Quayside Holdings Limited. So, because this was in the public, advertised in the public, I'm advised that the grounds for public excluded are contained in 7.F.1 of the Local Government Act, and that's to maintain the effective conduct of affairs through one, the free and frank expression of opinions by or between or two members or officials or employees of any local authority in the course of their duty. So in this case, in my view.
Yeah, you can't actually use that reason.
Can we go into confidential?
We certainly can.
Right, so moved councillor Winters, seconded my friend from Kawerau. All those in favour say